I am Amanda, and on my 28th birthday, I found myself alone in my apartment scrolling through Facebook when my heart stopped. There on my screen was a photo of my entire family gathered around a beautiful three-tier cake with my sister Audrey beaming in the center. The caption from my mother Elizabeth read, "Celebrating our angel Audrey early. The only one who deserves celebrating." With trembling fingers, I typed, "Nice cake." Mom replied almost instantly, "At least someone is worth baking for." The familiar ache of invisibility washed over me, but this time something different stirred inside. I smiled grimly and replied, "Enjoy it, while you can." Before I continue the story, let me know where you are watching from and hit subscribe if you want to hear how I turn this betrayal into the most satisfying moment of my life. This is not a story about revenge, but about finally being seen. Growing up in Boston, I was always the invisible child in our family of four. Our modest two-story house in Dorchester might have looked normal from the outside, but inside, there was a clear hierarchy of love and attention, with my younger sister Audrey perpetually at the top. From the moment Audrey was born when I was 3, my parents, especially my mother Elizabeth, treated her like a precious jewel that needed constant polishing and protection. My father William was not much better. While he maintained a stern, authoritative presence with me, expecting straight A's and perfect behavior, he melted into a puddle of affection whenever Audrey batted her eyelashes at him. "Daddy, can I have ice cream before dinner?" Audrey would ask with her cherubic smile. "Just this once, princess," Dad would say, though it happened nearly every week. Meanwhile, I could not even get permission to stay up 30 minutes past my bedtime to finish a school project without a lecture about responsibility and discipline. The disparity in how we were treated became crystal clear when I was 10 years old. After practicing for months, I had my first piano recital at the community center. I had been taking lessons, saving my allowance to pay for half of them as per my parents' agreement. The night of the recital, I stood backstage, peering nervously through the curtains, scanning the audience for my family. They never showed. Audrey had caught a mild cold that morning, and apparently, that warranted both parents staying home to tend to her, despite our grandmother Mabel being more than capable of watching a 7-year-old with the sniffles for 2 hours. I performed anyway, my small hands trembling not from nervousness, but from the hollow feeling in my chest. Mrs. Jenkins, my piano teacher, patted my shoulder afterward and said, "Your parents missed something special today, Amanda." She drove me home, and I found my mother spoon-feeding soup to Audrey, who was contentedly watching cartoons. "How was your little concert, honey?" Mom asked without looking up. "It was a recital," I corrected quietly. "I played for Elise." "That is nice," she replied absently, then turned back to Audrey. "One more spoonful for Mommy." Angel. During high school, the pattern continued. When I received a full-ride scholarship to Northwestern University, a celebration dinner was planned, only to be canceled because Audrey had failed her algebra exam and was too upset to go out. My accomplishment was acknowledged with a hastily purchased card from the drugstore, while Audrey received 3 weeks of private tutoring and a new phone to cheer her up. My college graduation ceremony was perhaps the most telling. After 4 years of working myself to exhaustion, maintaining my scholarship while holding down a part-time job, I finally earned my degree in finance with honors. My family showed up 20 minutes late to the ceremony, missed my walk across the stage, stayed for a quick photo, then left because Audrey, by then a freshman at a local college, needed to go shopping for her summer internship wardrobe. "We are proud of you, Amanda," my father said perfunctorily as they prepared to leave. "You have always been so independent." That word, independent, was their subtle way of absolving themselves of responsibility. I was not independent by choice, but by necessity. From an early age, I learned that relying on my family for emotional support was futile. So I built my life accordingly, finding mentors, creating friendships, and forging my own path without their guidance. After college, I secured a position at a prestigious accounting firm in Boston. I worked diligently, climbing the corporate ladder through sheer determination and skill. My apartment was small but tastefully furnished, paid for entirely by my own earnings. I took pride in my self-sufficiency, even as a part of me ached for the familial warmth that seemed eternally out of reach. Every year, Audrey's birthday was an elaborate affair. Themed parties with custom decorations, expensive gifts, and gushing social media posts from our mother. Happy birthday to my beautiful angel. You are the light of our lives. My birthdays, by contrast, were usually acknowledged with a text message. Sometimes a card if I was lucky. My 21st birthday coincided with Audrey's high school graduation party, and no one even mentioned it until 3 days later when an aunt called to apologize for forgetting. You are just so self-sufficient, Amanda, my mother would say whenever I expressed hurt. Audrey needs more support. She is sensitive, like me. And so the years passed, with Audrey remaining, the only one who deserves celebrating, while I became accustomed to my role as the afterthought. The footnote in the family story. I told myself it did not matter, that I had built a life independent of their validation. But deep down, a small part of me still hoped that someday they might see me too. My 28th birthday began like most others before it. I woke up early, the April sunlight streaming through my bedroom curtains, with that tiny, stubborn flicker of hope that perhaps this year would be different. Perhaps this year, someone from my family would remember without prompting, would call first thing in the morning with genuine warmth in their voice. I checked my phone. No messages from family. Just birthday wishes from my calendar app and LinkedIn notifications from coworkers who received automatic alerts. I sighed, pushing down the disappointment that felt so familiar it was almost comfortable, and got ready for work. At the accounting firm, I threw myself into spreadsheets and client meetings, a strategy one had perfected over years to distract myself from personal disappointments. Around noon, my colleagues Janet and Heather surprised me with cupcakes and a small gift card to my favorite bookstore. Happy birthday, Amanda, Janet said, giving me a warm hug. We could not let the day pass without celebrating you. Their kindness nearly brought me to tears. We shared the cupcakes in the break room, laughing about office gossip and making weekend plans. For a moment, the sting of my family's neglect faded into the background. Any plans with your family tonight? Heather asked innocently, licking frosting from her finger. Oh, you know them. Always busy, I replied with a practiced smile. We will probably catch up this weekend. The lie came easily after years of protecting myself from pitying looks. In reality, I had not heard a word from any of them, not even a text. I had stopped reminding them about my birthday years ago, tired of the humiliation of essentially begging for acknowledgement. That evening, I treated myself to take out from my favorite Thai restaurant and settled on my couch with a glass of wine. As I scrolled through Facebook, a mindless habit to fill the silence of my apartment, a post from my Aunt Grace caught my attention and stopped my heart mid-beat. There on my screen was a photo taken just hours earlier. My parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, and family friends all gathered in our family home. The dining room was decorated with balloons and streamers. In the center stood Audrey, 25 years old and radiant in a blue dress, beaming before a 3-tiered white cake adorned with candles and frosted flowers. The caption read, "Surprise early birthday celebration for our precious Audrey, the only one who deserves celebrating. So much love in one room for our special girl." My hands trembled as I stared at the image. Audrey's birthday was still 3 weeks away. They had chosen to celebrate her on my birthday instead. The comment section was filled with loving messages from family members. Dad, nothing but the best for our princess. Mom, the light of our lives, our perfect angel. Grandmother, such a blessed day celebrating our beautiful Audrey. I noticed every single person in that photo knew perfectly well it was my birthday today. Not one of them had reached out to me. Not even a text message. Instead, they had gathered to celebrate my sister on my day. With a numbness spreading through my chest, I typed a comment. Nice cake. I did not expect a response, but moments later, my phone pinged. My mother had replied, "At least someone is worth baking for." The words hit like a physical blow. I stared at them, reading and rereading. wondering if she even realized how cruel they were or if hurting me had become so natural she did not even notice anymore. A lifetime of similar slights flashed through my mind, birthdays forgotten, achievements ignored, needs dismissed. Years of being told in ways both subtle and explicit that I did not matter as much, that I was not worth the effort. Something shifted inside me then. Not just hurt, though that was certainly there, but a sudden clarity. This was not going to change. 28 years of evidence had shown me that my place in this family was fixed, and no amount of achievement, generosity, or patience on my part would alter that reality. I felt tears threaten, but alongside them came a strange sense of calm resolution. I was done seeking validation from people determined not to give it. With steady fingers, I typed my reply, "Enjoy it, while you can." Then I set down my phone, opened my laptop, and began to formulate a plan. What my family conveniently chose to forget, or perhaps never fully acknowledged, was just how much I had sacrificed for them over the years. After graduating summa cum laude with my finance degree, I quickly established myself at Anderson & Brooks Financial Services. Through relentless work ethic and natural aptitude, I advanced from junior analyst to senior financial advisor in just 5 years, building a client portfolio that included some of Boston's most affluent families. My financial success came at a personal cost, with 60-hour work weeks and sacrificed vacations, but it had enabled me to support my family in ways they seemed to take for granted. 3 years ago, when my father William lost his job during company downsizing, their mortgage fell into arrears. Without hesitation, I transferred $30,000 from my savings to cover the missed payments and prevent foreclosure. Dad accepted the money with a gruff, "We will pay you back," though we both knew they likely never would. Mom called it what family does for each other, apparently forgetting this principle only applied to what I should do for them, never the reverse. When Audrey failed to secure any scholarships for college, despite my parents' certainty that her special qualities would guarantee financial aid, I stepped in again. $15,000 from my 401k, with the associated penalties for early withdrawal, ensured her first-year tuition was covered. Just until we figure out a more permanent solution, Mom had said. That permanent solution turned out to be me writing another check the following year. The list of financial bailouts continued. $5,000 for Audrey's European vacation with her friends, a cultural experience too important to miss. $8,000 for the down payment on her car after she wrecked her previous one while texting. $12,000 to cover 6 months of rent when she quit her job at a marketing firm because her boss did not appreciate her creativity. None of these loans were ever repaid. When I gently brought up the subject once, my mother acted as though I had committed an unspeakable rudeness. "I cannot believe you would keep score like that, Amanda," she had said. Genuinely offended. "Audrey will pay you back when she can. You know money comes easily to you, while she is still finding her path." Money did not come easily to me. It came through hard work, strategic career choices, and careful financial planning. But my accomplishments were always diminished this way, attributed to some inherent advantage rather than recognized as the result of my efforts. Beyond financial support, I was the reliable one who showed up for every family event, regardless of how I was treated. When my cousin Alex got married in Maine, I drove 4 hours after a full workday to help set up the rehearsal dinner. During my mother's 60th birthday, I organized the entire celebration, from catering to decorations, while Audrey was assigned the sole task of making a heartfelt toast, which she improvised on the spot after arriving an hour late. I mediated the 3-year feud between my parents and Aunt Sophia after a holiday disagreement, arranging the peacemaking dinner and smoothing ruffled feathers until they were speaking again. When Aunt Beverly needed emergency gallbladder surgery, I was the one who rearranged my work schedule to drive her to appointments and stock her refrigerator with prepared meals during her recovery. Every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, every family crisis or celebration, I showed up with thoughtful gifts, homemade dishes, or whatever support was needed. I sent birthday cards, made phone calls, remembered anniversaries, maintained the connections that kept our family functioning. And what did I receive in return? Forgotten birthdays. Dismissive comments about being too serious or all business. Invitations extended as afterthoughts, if at all. Amanda would not want to come to the beach anyway. She is always working. They would say, not bothering to ask if that was true. No need to call Amanda about the change of plans. She is so independent. Amanda does not care about things like birthday parties. She is not sentimental like Audrey. They had created a narrative about me that justified their neglect, casting my self-reliance, born of necessity, as evidence that I did not need or want their attention. And for years, I had accepted this narrative, telling myself that family dynamics were complicated, that perhaps I was indeed different, less deserving of celebration. But staring at that Facebook post on my 28th birthday, something crystallized for me. My independence was not a character flaw that justified their behavior. It was a strength I had developed despite their behavior. And perhaps it was time to use that strength in a new way, not to keep supporting a one-sided relationship, but to teach a long overdue lesson about appreciation and consequences. That night, as the reality of my family's actions fully sank in, I sat in my darkened apartment with determination, replacing the familiar ache of disappointment. The glow of my laptop illuminated my face as I began researching and formulating a plan that would finally make my presence felt within my family. This would not be about revenge. I had never been the vindictive type, and even now, hurt as I was, I did not wish to cause pain. This would be about visibility, about consequences, about shifting the dynamics that had defined our family for far too long. I started by examining what I knew about Audrey's current situation. Despite the constant financial support she received from our parents and me, my sister had recently moved into an upscale apartment in Beacon Hill that she could not possibly afford on her entry-level publishing salary. The place had hardwood floors, stainless steel appliances, and a rooftop deck with views of the Charles River. Pure Audrey, prioritizing appearance over practicality. Through casual conversations over the past few months, I had gathered that she was struggling to make rent, already late twice in the 4 months she had lived there. Yet instead of downsizing, she had been dropping hints to our parents about needing just a little help until her big promotion came through, a promotion that existed mainly in her imagination. I pulled up my banking app and checked my savings. Between my emergency fund and investment accounts, I had accumulated a comfortable cushion that would allow me to execute what I was considering. Next, I texted my friend Brian, a real estate attorney who specialized in rental properties. Any chance you could meet for coffee tomorrow? Need some professional advice. His response came quickly. For you? Anytime. Thinking of becoming a landlord? Not exactly, I replied. We'll explain tomorrow. Thanks. The following morning, I met Brian at a quiet cafe near my office. After catching up briefly, I explained my situation and what I wanted to do. So let me get this straight, Brian said, leaning forward. You want to find out who your sister's landlord is? Contact them directly and offer to pay her rent for a full year? Without her knowing? Exactly, I confirmed. Is that possible legally? Brian thought for a moment, tapping his spoon against his coffee cup. Yes, it is possible. Landlords generally do not care where the rent comes from, as long as it is paid. Though there might be some wrinkles depending on her specific lease agreement. Can you help me find out who owns her building? Give me her address, Brian said. Property ownership is public record. I will have that information for you by this afternoon. True to his word, Brian called me a few hours later with the details. The building was owned by Thomas Peterson, a property developer who owned several buildings throughout Boston. Better yet, Brian had a professional connection with him and could arrange an introduction. 2 days later, I sat across from Thomas Peterson in his downtown office. He was a shrewd businessman in his 50s with salt and pepper hair and calculating eyes that assessed me as I explained my proposal. Miss Taylor, while I appreciate your willingness to ensure your sister's rent is covered, I have to ask why you would not simply give her the money directly. I maintained eye contact, my voice steady. Mr. Peterson, my sister, and I have a complicated relationship. This is not about controlling her or interfering in her life. It is about teaching a larger lesson about appreciation and taking things for granted. I am prepared to pay 12 months of rent up front, with the condition that she not be told the source of this generosity until a time of my choosing. He considered this, then nodded slowly. I have seen all kinds of family dynamics in this business. As long as I get paid and everything is legally documented, the arrangement works for me. My lawyer will draw up the necessary paperwork. That evening, I made the transfer of $60,000, covering 12 months of Audrey's inflated rent. I felt a moment of financial anxiety, seeing such a large sum leave my account, but also a strange sense of liberation. For once, my money would not simply disappear into the black hole of family need without acknowledgement. This time, there would be a reckoning. After finalizing the arrangement with Thomas Peterson, I sent 2 crucial emails. The first went to him, confirming our agreement and the completed transfer of funds. The second went to Caroline Winters, another attorney friend who would help me execute the revelation of my gift when the time was right. As I clicked send on the final email, I experienced a complex rush of emotions. Part of me worried I was being petty or manipulative. Was I any better than my family if I used my financial resources to orchestrate this lesson? But another part, the part that had been silenced and overlooked for 28 years, felt vindicated. This was not about hurting Audrey. In fact, I was helping her in a tangible way by ensuring her housing security for a year. This was about making visible all that had been invisible for years: my contributions, my sacrifices, my presence in the family. I closed my laptop and looked out at the Boston skyline from my window. For the first time in years, I felt a weight lifting. Whatever happened next, I had taken action instead of passively accepting the role assigned to me. I had chosen to write my own part in the family story. Whether they would appreciate the revision remained to be seen. But oddly enough, that mattered less to me now. The simple act of standing up for myself, of refusing to remain invisible, felt like victory enough. I slept better that night than I had in years. 12 days after my birthday, as I was finishing up a client meeting, my phone buzzed with a text from an unexpected source, my cousin Megan. "What did you do? Audrey is freaking out right now." Before I could respond, another text arrived, this one from Aunt Grace. Family group chat going crazy. "Audrey got some news about her apartment. Do you know anything about this?" I put my phone away, thanked my client for their time, and walked calmly back to my office. Only then did I allow myself a small smile. The plan was in motion. From what I gathered through the flurry of family texts over the next hour, Thomas Peterson had called Audrey that morning. Initially, she had panicked, assuming she was being evicted due to her late payments. Instead, he informed her that not only was her rent for the current month taken care of, but her lease had been paid in full for the next 12 months by an anonymous benefactor. According to my cousin Megan, who was on the phone with Audrey when it happened, my sister had literally screamed, dropping her phone before picking it back up and demanding Thomas explain. When he maintained that he could not reveal the identity of her generous patron, she had alternated between hysterical gratitude and suspicious questioning. Within 30 minutes of receiving the news, Audrey had called our mother, who then called our father. All our aunts and uncles, and at least 5 of Audrey's friends, spreading the miraculous news. The family speculation machine went into immediate overdrive. "Apparently Mom thinks it might be Audrey's ex, Justin," Megan texted me. "You know, the investment banker she dated last year? Dad thinks it could be Grandma, secretly using some of her retirement money." I read these theories with quiet amusement. It never occurred to any of them that I might be behind this. Why would it? In their narrative, I was the practical one, the reliable one, but never the grand gesture one. That role belonged exclusively to others in our family drama. Most entertainingly, Audrey seemed convinced the mysterious benefactor was her best friend Stephanie's father, a successful surgeon who had always treated Audrey like a second daughter. The fact that she had only met the man twice did not seem to dampen this theory. I watched the situation unfold through social media, where Audrey had wasted no time in sharing her good fortune. Her Instagram story featured tearful videos expressing her overwhelming gratitude to her guardian angel and declaring this proof that the universe rewards good people. Her Facebook post read, "Still in shock. Just found out someone paid my entire year of rent. So blessed and grateful for this miracle and trying to figure out which amazing person in my life did this. Whoever you are, thank you for seeing my worth." The irony of that last line was not lost on me. The following day, my mother called, something that rarely happened unless she needed something. I steeled myself before answering. "Amanda, have you heard about what happened to your sister?" She sounded breathless with excitement. "I saw something on Facebook," I replied neutrally. "Sounds like she got some good news about her rent." "Good news? It is an absolute miracle," Mom exclaimed. "Someone paid her entire year of rent. We are talking about $60,000, Amanda." $60,000? Can you believe it? Yes, I could believe it, considering I had written the check. But I simply said, "Wow, that is incredible. Any idea who did it?" Mom launched into the various theories circulating through the family, not once considering that I might have had both the financial means and potential motivation to be the mystery benefactor. In her world, I existed as the steady daughter who helped in practical, unglamorous ways, not as someone capable of dramatic gestures. "We are having a special dinner this weekend to celebrate," she added almost as an afterthought. "Sunday at 6. You should come." The invitation felt perfunctory, an obligation rather than a desire for my presence. "I will check my calendar," I replied, knowing I would find a reason to be busy. Over the next few weeks, I observed a fascinating transformation in Audrey's behavior. Rather than using this windfall as an opportunity to save money or pay back any of the numerous loans she had received over the years, she took it as license to spend even more extravagantly. Her social media filled with posts from expensive restaurants, shopping trips, and weekend getaways. "When the universe takes care of your biggest expense, you have to celebrate." She captioned a photo of herself with a $400 bottle of champagne. Our parents, predictably, indulged this behavior. Mom shared Audrey's posts with addendums like, "Our blessed girl deserving all good things," and "When good things happen to good people." The family dynamics shifted subtly too. If Audrey had been the center of attention before, she now achieved near mythical status. The mysterious gift validated their long-held belief in her special qualities, proof that she was indeed worth extraordinary treatment. Meanwhile, I continued my regular life, working hard, building my career, and observing from a distance. No one noticed that I had suddenly stopped responding to requests for financial help. No one questioned why I had become less available for family functions. I was planning the next phase of my lesson in visibility, and it required patience. 3 months, I decided. 3 months of watching Audrey bask in her miracle. 3 months of my family reinforcing their narratives about who deserved celebration, and then the truth would be revealed. 3 months after Thomas Peterson's life-changing phone call to Audrey, my sister decided to host what she called a gratitude gala at Montello's, one of Boston's most upscale Italian restaurants. The stated purpose was to celebrate and hopefully draw out my mysterious benefactor, though it seemed equally designed to showcase Audrey's perceived worthiness of such generosity. I received the invitation via text from my mother. "Audrey's hosting dinner at Montello's Saturday, 7 p.m. Formal attire. She hopes her rent angel might reveal themselves. Try not to be late. And please do not make a scene or make this about you." The irony of that last sentence might have been comical if it was not so typical. Even when I was not doing anything, my family preemptively worried I might somehow steal attention that rightfully belonged to Audrey. For this occasion, I prepared carefully. I purchased a new dress, a deep crimson sheath that contrasted with my usual neutral professional wardrobe. I booked appointments for hair, makeup, and a manicure. If this was to be my moment of visibility, I would ensure I looked the part. When I arrived at Montello's, precisely at 7, the private dining room was already half full. Audrey had invited about 50 people, a mix of family, friends, and apparently anyone she thought might secretly be her benefactor. The room sparkled with crystal glasses, fine china, and elaborate floral centerpieces that must have cost thousands. Another example of how my sister was celebrating her financial windfall. My entrance caused a small stir, partly because I rarely attended family gatherings anymore, and partly because few of them had seen me in anything but professional attire or casual weekend clothes. Several relatives did double takes, as though seeing me clearly for the first time. "Amanda." My grandmother Helen approached, kissing my cheek. "You look different. Did you change your hair?" "Not recently," I replied with a smile. "How are you, Grandma?" Before she could answer, my mother intercepted us, her expression a mix of surprise and wariness. "Amanda, you made it. And you're on time." She looked me over, noting the dress, the carefully applied makeup. "You certainly dressed for the occasion. It is a celebration, right?" I said, maintaining my composure. "Where should I sit?" Mom directed me to a table near the back, furthest from where Audrey would be seated, naturally. I accepted this without comment and made my way through the room, exchanging polite greetings with relatives and family friends. My father nodded to me from across the room but made no move to come speak to me. Audrey made her grand entrance 20 minutes later, wearing a designer dress I recognized from her recent shopping spree posts. She moved through the room like a queen holding court, accepting congratulations and good wishes as though the mysterious gift was an achievement rather than pure luck. When she spotted me, her smile faltered momentarily before she recovered. "Amanda, I did not think you would come." She air-kissed near my cheeks. "Work always keeps you so busy." "I would not miss it," I replied. "This is quite the celebration you have put together." She beamed, missing or ignoring any subtle undertone in my comment. "Well, when someone believes in you enough to make such a generous gesture, you have to honor that, right? I just wish I knew who it was so I could thank them properly." "Maybe you will find out tonight," I said, maintaining eye contact until she grew slightly uncomfortable. "Maybe," she agreed, already glancing past me to greet someone else. "Enjoy the party." Dinner proceeded with the usual family dynamics in full display. Audrey was the radiant center of attention while I observed from the periphery. Multiple toasts were made to her good fortune, with our father William declaring emotionally that no one deserves this blessing more than our special girl. Near the end of the main course, Audrey stood and tapped her glass for attention. The room quieted as she prepared to speak. "I want to thank everyone for coming tonight," she began, her voice carrying the practiced tremor of someone trying to appear overwhelmed with emotion. "These past few months have been absolutely magical. When I received that call from Mr. Peterson telling me my rent had been paid for an entire year, I could not believe it. I still cannot believe someone would do something so incredibly generous for me." She continued, describing her journey of gratitude and how this mysterious gift had affirmed her path in life. As she spoke, I noticed my mother dabbing at her eyes while my father nodded solemnly, his expression proud. "I have hoped that tonight my guardian angel might reveal themselves," Audrey concluded, scanning the room hopefully. "But even if they choose to remain anonymous, I want them to know how much this means to me, how much I appreciate being seen and valued this way." As she finished to applause and raised glasses, the restaurant's side door opened. Caroline Winters entered, elegant in a tailored navy suit, her expression professionally neutral. She approached Audrey directly, extending her business card. "Miss Taylor? I apologize for interrupting your dinner. My name is Caroline Winters. I represent the individual who arranged for your housing payment." The room fell silent. Every head turned toward this unexpected development. Audrey's eyes widened as she accepted the card. "Your benefactor has authorized me to reveal their identity tonight," Caroline continued, "and to provide you with documentation of the arrangement." She handed Audrey a leather portfolio containing the contract I had signed with Thomas Peterson, along with bank statements showing the transfer of funds from my account. I watched as Audrey opened the folder, her expression shifting from excitement to confusion to utter disbelief as she recognized my name on the documents. Her eyes shot up, searching the room until they locked with mine. "Amanda?" Her voice was barely audible. "This was you." Every head in the room swiveled toward me as I stood calmly. Yes, Audrey. It was me. The silence that followed was profound, broken only when my mother spoke, her voice sharp with accusation rather than the gratitude one might expect. Amanda, what is the meaning of this? Why would you do this and not say anything for months? Why would you hire a lawyer to make some sort of dramatic scene at your sister's party? I met her gaze steadily. Her party? You mean the party she threw to celebrate a gift from me? A gift none of you ever considered might have come from me. But why keep it a secret? My father asked, his brow furrowed. Why not just tell her it was you? Would you have believed me? I asked simply. Or would you have assumed I was trying to take credit for someone else's generosity? After all, in this family, grand gestures and celebration-worthy acts belong to others, not to me. Audrey stood frozen, still holding the portfolio, tears now streaming down her face. I do not understand. Why would you do this? Because I've been doing it for years, I replied, my voice steady despite the emotion building in my chest. I have been supporting this family financially, emotionally, practically for as long as I can remember. I paid Dad's mortgage when he lost his job. I covered your college tuition. I loaned you money for your car, your European vacation. Your 6 months of unemployment, none of which you ever repaid. Murmurs rippled through the room as relatives processed this information, much of which had been kept quiet or minimized over the years. But those were just loans, my mother interjected. Family helps family. This was different. Different how? I challenged. Different because this time I wanted acknowledgement? Different because I chose when and how my contribution would be recognized instead of letting it be taken for granted? I turned to address the room at large. 3 months ago was my 28th birthday. Not one person in this family called me, texted me, or acknowledged it in any way. Instead, you all gathered to throw a surprise party for Audrey, whose birthday was still weeks away. The caption on the Facebook post read, "The only one who deserves celebrating." Several relatives looked down, uncomfortable with this direct confrontation of behavior they had either participated in or witnessed over the years. When I commented on that post, my own mother replied, "At least someone is worth baking for." I looked directly at her now. Do you have any idea how that feels? To be told so explicitly by your own mother that you are not worth celebrating? Not worth even the smallest gesture of love. My mother's face paled. I never said that. You did. My Aunt Grace confirmed quietly. I saw the comment, Elizabeth. We all did. It was just a joke, my mother protested weakly. No, I said firmly. It was the truth as you see it. It was the dynamic this family has enforced my entire life. Audrey is the special one, the one who deserves celebration and support and endless second chances. I am the reliable one. The independent one, the one expected to give endlessly without recognition or reciprocation. I walked toward Audrey now, keeping my voice gentle despite my hurt. I do not begrudge you the rent money, Audrey. I am financially secure enough to help, and I have always helped when asked. What I wanted was for this family to see the pattern. To recognize how one-sided things have become, to acknowledge my presence and contributions for once instead of taking them for granted. Tears continued to stream down Audrey's face, but I could see something new in her expression, something like dawning awareness. I did not do this to hurt you, I continued. I did it because I am tired of being invisible. I am tired of only being valued for what I can provide, never for who I am. I am tired of watching everyone celebrate Audrey while forgetting I exist. The silence that followed was heavy with decades of unspoken hurts and realizations. Finally, my father stood. Amanda, he began, his voice uncharacteristically uncertain. I had no idea you felt this way. That is the problem, Dad, I replied softly. No one ever asked how I felt. No one ever saw me enough to wonder. With that, I gathered my purse and wrap. I have said what I needed to say. The rent is paid for the full year, Audrey. No strings attached. What happens next is up to all of you. I walked out of Montello's with my head high, feeling neither triumph nor regret, but something rarer and more precious, the lightness of finally being seen. The days following the revelation at Montello's were surprisingly quiet. I had half expected an immediate barrage of angry calls and texts, accusations of ruining Audrey's special night or embarrassing the family. Instead, there was an uncharacteristic silence. As though my words had created a pause in our family's usual script, forcing everyone to reconsider their lines. My phone did show evidence of attempted contact, 23 missed calls, 47 text messages, and numerous voicemails, all of which I chose not to engage with immediately. I needed space to process what had happened, to stand firm in the boundaries I had finally established. On the third day after the dinner, as I was preparing to leave my office, my assistant buzzed to inform me that Audrey was in the lobby asking to see me. I considered refusing, then decided against it. This conversation was inevitable, and perhaps it was better to have it on my territory, where I felt secure and respected. When Audrey entered my office, I was struck by how different she looked from the confident, entitled woman who had hosted the Gratitude Gala. Her face was free of makeup, her hair pulled back simply, her clothing casual rather than designer labeled. She seemed smaller somehow, less certain of her place in the world. "Can I sit?" she asked, gesturing to the chair across from my desk. I nodded, observing her carefully. "Would you like some water? Coffee?" "No, thank you." She settled into the chair, hands fidgeting in her lap. "I have been trying to call you." "I know," I acknowledged. "I needed some time." She nodded, then fell silent, seemingly at a loss for how to begin. I waited, refusing to make this easier for her. Finally, she looked up, meeting my eyes directly. "I had no idea," she said simply. "About any of it. The mortgage payment for Mom and Dad, my tuition, how they treated you on your birthday. I mean, I knew they favored me, but I thought it was just normal parent stuff, not what you described." "Would it have mattered if you had known?" I asked, genuinely curious. She considered this, which surprised me. The Audrey I knew typically responded instantly, emotionally, without reflection. "I would like to think it would have," she said finally. "But honestly, I do not know. I have been trying to remember a time when I ever questioned how they treated you. When I ever stood up for you or noticed you were being sidelined, and I cannot think of a single instance. I just accepted the way things were because it benefited me." Her candor was unexpected, and I felt a small softening in my resolve. "After you left the restaurant," she continued, "everything fell apart. Mom started crying, Dad looked like he had seen a ghost, and all our relatives were either awkwardly pretending nothing had happened or openly discussing times they had witnessed you being treated as less than. Aunt Grace actually got into a huge argument with Mom, saying she had been wanting to say something for years." "That is surprising," I said. Aunt Grace had always seemed to go along with the family dynamic without question. "Everything is different now," Audrey said. "Mom keeps trying to justify things, saying you were always so independent, you never seemed to need them like I did. But Dad has barely spoken. He sent me an email yesterday with a spreadsheet." "A spreadsheet?" I raised an eyebrow. "Of all the money you have given our family over the years." He had been keeping track, even if he never acknowledged it publicly. "It totaled over $170,000, Amanda. And that does not even count the rent money." I remained silent, letting this information settle between us. "I had no idea you were supporting us like that," Audrey continued. "I knew you helped sometimes, but I always thought it was just small stuff. Or that Mom and Dad were the ones really handling things. I never connected that my lifestyle, my apartment, my car, my ability to quit jobs I did not like, was all possible because of you." "It was never about the money, Audrey," I said finally. "I have enough. I have always been happy to help when I could." It was about the acknowledgement, the appreciation. The basic human courtesy of recognizing my birthday or my accomplishments once in a while. "I know that now," she replied, her voice breaking slightly. "And I am so sorry, Amanda. I am sorry I took you for granted. I am sorry I never questioned why I always got the spotlight. I am sorry I let them treat you like you did not matter." For the first time in our adult lives, I believed my sister was being genuinely sincere, seeing beyond herself to recognize another person's pain. "What happens now?" she asked after we had sat in silence for a moment. "That depends on all of you," I replied honestly. "I am not cutting contact with the family. I am not demanding reparations or apologies, though they would be nice. What I am doing is establishing boundaries. I will no longer be the invisible support system. I will no longer accept being treated as less worthy of celebration or acknowledgement. I will no longer show up for people who cannot be bothered to show up for me. Audrey nodded slowly. That is fair. More than fair. In the weeks that followed, other family members reached out in various ways. My father sent a lengthy email apologizing for years of taking me for granted and acknowledging the favoritism that had shaped our family. He wrote, "I convinced myself that because you were successful and self-sufficient, you did not need the attention or support we gave Audrey. I see now how wrong and unfair that was. A child's strength should not be punished with neglect." My mother took longer to come around. Her initial responses were defensive, insisting I was too sensitive and had misinterpreted family dynamics. But as others in the family began to openly discuss the imbalance they had witnessed, her position became increasingly untenable. Eventually, she called, her voice uncharacteristically subdued. "I do not think I was a bad mother," she began. "I never said you were," I replied. "I said you were an unequal mother." The distinction seemed to reach her in a way my previous attempts had not. "I suppose that is fair," she admitted. "I always felt Audrey needed me more. You were so capable, so self-reliant from an early age. It was easier to focus on her." "Easier, but not right," I said gently. "No," she agreed after a pause. "Not right." It was not a profound apology, but from my mother, it represented significant movement. I maintained my distance for several months, attending only select family gatherings and establishing clear boundaries around my time, energy, and resources. I declined requests for loans, suggested alternative solutions to financial problems, and made it clear that while I loved my family, I was no longer available to be taken advantage of. During this time, I focused on building my own support network. I deepened friendships with colleagues like Janet and Heather who had always recognized my worth. I joined a therapy group for adult children navigating complex family dynamics. I took a painting class I had always been interested in but never made time for, finding unexpected joy in creative expression. 6 months after the revelation at Montello's, Audrey invited me to dinner at her apartment, just the two of us. I arrived to find she had prepared my favorite meal, complete with a bottle of wine I had once mentioned liking. "I have been budgeting," she announced proudly as we ate. "For the first time in my life. I started a savings account, and I am actually putting money into it every month." "That is great, Audrey," I said, genuinely pleased for her. "And I have been thinking about what happens when the year of rent is up," she continued. "I found a smaller apartment in a less expensive neighborhood. It is actually really cute, and I can afford it on my own. I sign the lease next month." This represented real growth for my sister, who had always prioritized appearances over financial stability. "I am proud of you," I told her, and meant it. She smiled, then grew serious. "Mom and Dad want to have a family dinner next weekend. They specifically asked me to see if you would come. I think they have something they want to say to you." I considered this. "Will you be there?" "Only if you want me to be," she replied, another sign of her evolving awareness. I agreed to attend, approaching the dinner with cautious optimism. When I arrived at my parents' house, I was surprised to find a small gathering rather than the extended family events that typically dominated our interactions. Just my parents, Audrey, and me. More surprising still was the dining room table, set with care and adorned with a small cake that read, "Happy Birthday, Amanda," despite my birthday having passed months ago. "We missed a lot of birthdays," my father explained simply. "We thought we could start making up for that today." It was a gesture both modest and profound, acknowledging years of oversight without attempting to erase them with extravagance. We shared a meal that night that felt different from any family gathering I could remember, with conversation that included questions about my work, my interests, my perspective on current events, all the simple acknowledgments of personhood that had been so consistently absent before. As we finished dessert, my mother reached for my hand across the table, something she had rarely done even when I was a child. "I want to thank you," she said, her voice earnest. not just for all you have done for this family over the years, though that deserves more gratitude than we have shown. I want to thank you for having the courage to show us who we had become, even when it was painful to hear. You could have just walked away from us and no one would have blamed you. Instead, you gave us a chance to see ourselves clearly and to do better. It was perhaps the most genuine thing my mother had ever said to me, free from the deflection and justification that typically characterized her communication. The road to healing our family has not been straight or simple. There have been setbacks, moments when old patterns reasserted themselves, times when I needed to reinforce boundaries firmly. But there has also been growth, genuine effort, and a slow rebuilding of trust. I no longer measure my worth by my family's ability to see it. That was perhaps the most valuable lesson in this journey. True freedom is not found in gaining everyone's approval or acknowledgement, but in knowing exactly what you deserve and being willing to stand firm in that knowledge. Sometimes the people who should love us most fail to see us clearly. Sometimes the very qualities that make us strong, our independence and self-reliance, become excuses for others to overlook our needs. And sometimes, the only way to change a lifetime of patterns is to refuse to participate in them any longer. I still believe in generosity, in supporting those you love, in showing up when needed. But I now understand that true generosity flows from abundance, not obligation, and that relationships must be reciprocal to be healthy. Most importantly, I have learned that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for others and yourself is to hold up a mirror to dynamics that no one wants to see, even when the reflection is painful. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? How did you handle it? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to hear more journeys of self-discovery and healing. Remember that your worth is not determined by others' ability to see it. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stand firmly in your own light. Thank you for listening to my story, and I wish you courage on your own path to being truly seen.